Right. Welcome to Management Decision and Control. This is yet another class, hoping to prepare us for the exam. So today we want to look at a question that is on divisional performance management, sometimes called divisional performance evaluation, and so on. So before we do the question, just want to give you a background to the topic called divisional performance evaluation. So the topic divisional performance evaluation arises from the way organizations operate these days. Organizations these days operate branches, and this is very common with banks. They also, we have other organizations that operate divisions. This could be any company. A case in example, you could have a company that deals in, let's say, has a division for selling of cars, has a division for, let's say, maybe sell, repair and maintenance, has a division for another section, just like the way we have maybe the Spear group of companies having different kind of divisions, but under one same group. Also, we have also seen with globalization, we've also seen many multinational companies making their move into different countries. And usually these companies in different countries are regarded as subsidiaries. So with that way of operating companies, the leaders or the owners of these organizations are usually interested to understand how these respective organizations perform. And they want to make sure that they are looking at the performance of each of these different organizations, as well as looking at the performance of managers. And that is where now the divisional performance evaluation comes in. So with division performance evaluation, we are basically looking at performance measurement for managers as well as the branches or the divisions themselves. So we have different yardsticks or different measures that we make when it comes to evaluating performance. Of course, we have non-financial and then we have the financial. Aspects of non-financial, we could basically be looking at, for example, looking at customers. We are comparing branches based on their customers. A branch that has more customers is doing better than the branch that has few customers. We look at terms of time taken to serve customers. Okay, we look at things to do with lesser staff turnovers, how a branch is able to keep its employees for some good time, and so on, customer care, and so on. And then when you look at the financial aspects, we have different ones that we use, and some of these could be ratios. We do a ratio analysis. And by ratio analysis here, we look at aspects of things to do with like profitability, liquidity, things like net profit margin, gross profit margin, contribution margin, and so on. And then we also have the key ones that are more common is the residual income and return on investment. Residual income and return on investments. Those ones are a bit similar to each other, residual income and return on investment. But so you know that return on investment is a percentage, and it's given by profit divided by capital employed times 100. Profit divided by capital employed times 100. That's our return on investment. But return, the formula also varies if we are looking at performance evaluation of either the division or the manager. In case we are looking at the performance evaluation of the manager, then the profit we use is called controllable profit. The profit we use is called controllable profit. And when we are looking at the performance evaluation of the division, we look at what is called traceable profit. Now, controllable profit, the word controllable profit basically is looking at the revenues that the manager controls less the costs that they control. And that's why it is called controllable profit. We understand very well that organizations that work in a group, there are certain costs that are incurred by the branch with the influence of the head office. Also, there are also costs that are incurred with the decisions of the manager of the branch. The same thing with the revenue. There is revenue that is generated directly from the head office. Maybe the head office already has contracts and the branch just fulfills those contracts. And then there is revenue that is 100% controlled and brought in by the branch. So when we are looking at the performance of the manager, all we are looking at is controllable. That's why we call it controllable profit. And then we have, when it comes to the division, we said we use what we call the traceable profit. So our return on investment, when it comes to a division, is given by traceable profit out of capital employed. So by traceable profit here, we're trying to look at the division's performance. We're looking at that profit, okay, that the manager controls, less any divisional costs that outside managers control. Now, there are, like I said, there are costs that are not within the control of the division or within the control of the manager. So those are actually removed from the traceable profit. So we are going to see how that applies. So this question we have here is brings in those aspects. So we are going to go through and then we can learn more about this topic even as we proceed. So they are telling us that I could just share this with you. Just share this with you. This is taken from, this is March 2021. This is March 2021. So I could just share this. Yeah, so for those that are listening in live, I've shared this in the chat box. You can be able to find this document. But I'll be able to, just in case, you can also get this on the website. ISPA website can help you. Okay, you can try to okay. So I hope you have gotten the question. So we're looking at question 3, which is Haven Funeral Services, where they are saying that Haven Funeral Services was incorporated in Uganda in 2006 to provide funeral services within Kampala and the surrounding areas. After 10 years of operations, HFS decided to extend its services to other municipalities within Uganda. Branches were opened in municipalities of Arua, Tororo, Kasese, and Masaka. The branches operate as investment centers, and HFS has a bonus plan for these branches based on residual income. The bonus policy indicates that half of RI is offered as a bonus to the branch. So like I've tried to explain that when it comes to performance, division performance evaluation, we want to basically see how we can evaluate our different branches. So HFS here is an example of an organization that is divided into branches. And they're telling us that here, that these are given bonus plans based on their residual income. So their residual income is their way of managing performance, of measuring performance, okay? And they're telling us that the bonus policy indicates that half of the residual income is offered as a bonus to the branch. HFS is set the required rate of return at 15% in the year 2016. But this rate was increased by 4% effective January 2020. Okay. They're saying during top management review meeting for their ended 2020 at the headquarters in Kampala, the branch manager of Arua was reprimanded by the CEO for contributing the lowest profit for the year. His defense was that the branch has the least capital employed and limited resources compared to the rest, which affected its turnover. He further indicated that sometimes business opportunities were given to fellow service providers due to lack of capacity. He said, "I bet Mr. CEO, if Arua is given more capital, its profits would triple immediately." The finance director supported the branch manager of Arua by informing the CEO that despite his branch contributing low profits, financial analysis indicated that Arua performed better than the rest in using its employed capital. The finance director further revealed that the branch with high profit contribution did not qualify for the bonus for the year 2020. The CEO instructed the finance director to share the financial analysis with a member of top management and demonstrate how branch Arua performed better than the rest. Below is the information extract relating to the year ended 31st December 2020. So we have branches, and then we have the sales revenue, and then we have the total assets, we have the current liabilities, we have the variable costs as per percentage of sales revenue, and then we have fixed costs as a percentage of sales revenue. They're telling us that the finance director is seeking your input as the management accountant. 1, evaluate the finance director's assertions that Arua branch performed better than other branches, and they're telling us to use the return on investment technique. And then they're asking us to also, the branch with high profits is not eligible for the bonus ended year 31st December 2020. Telling us to discuss the role of any 3 responsibility centers that can exist in an organization like HFS. All right, so this is our question. And as we can see, there is something here that comes up, which is called the return on investment. As we can see, currently they are using the residual income as a measurement mode. But then we also have what we call the return on investment, which is also another way to measure performance, which we're trying to look at the return on investment, okay? So we are going to see how that applies and how using it would disqualify the other branch with high profit contribution not to be eligible for bonus for that year. All right, so you can try to go through your question, conceptualize it. I try to open my worksheet here. So we can see that we have three branch. These are 4 branches. Okay. So we are going to draw a table to represent that. Just a moment, so I can try to use my Excel here. Okay. So HFS. So this is the information they have given us, and this is the same information that we are going to basically use. So the first thing is we want to use the so-called return on investment to evaluate our branches. So I want you to look very critically here. As we can see, and as it was asserted, from here, if in terms of revenue, you see that Alua has 200, Toro has 160, Assesi has 320, and then Masaka has 250. So you may think that Tororo is the one that underperformed based on revenue. But then we also have the other factors as well. We have other we have costs, okay, because revenue in its own is not final. We have other costs, and some of the costs we have there, they have given us variable costs, and they have also given us fixed costs. Now, for the variable costs, they have given us that those are a percentage of sales revenue, and fixed cost is also the same thing. So we are going to be able to calculate those accordingly. So what we shall do a profit statement. We are going to do a profit statement for the different branches, okay? So they have given us branch, so we shall have branch. And the first branch we have is Arua. Then the next one we have is Tororo. Then the next one we have is Kasese. And then we have Masaka. So that is what we basically have. So they have given us, now when I say we are doing a profit statement, we are going to look at revenue. Then we look at the variable costs, and maybe we can also get our contribution, and then get our fixed cost and get our profit, okay? So that's why I'm calling it a profit statement. So the first thing we are going to look at here is we can start with sales. The sales revenue. The sales revenue. So the sales revenue from our question, they have given us this sales revenue in millions. They have given us our sales revenue in millions. So we just try to maintain a similar degree of precision. So we shall also work in millions. So we're going to include what we have in terms of the values. So we have 200, 160, 320, and 50. So just come here. Okay, like that. That is what we basically have. So the next thing we're going to look at, since we have a revenue and we're doing a profit statement, now we're going to look at costs, okay? We're now going to look at costs. So from here, they have told us that they have given us the total assets. Let's first leave this. And the current liabilities, let's also first leave it. Let's now come to our costs, okay? And we shall start with the variable costs and say, less variable costs. So the variable costs, they have told us that these ones are a percentage of the sales. So what we have to basically do, they're telling us that it is 38% of our sales. So we have to basically calculate our variable costs. So you just have a working where to work from. The percentage is 38. And remember, this is what we have. I can just bring this here as you're working. So 38% of this, so I'll just do, I'll just use my computer. Give me the different values. So we can see we have 76 million, 60.8, 121, and 95 as our variable costs in terms of millions. So I'll just bring them here. And these ones are also in shillings millions. So that's what I have. Then I can have contribution. Contribution is this minus that. And I'll have this, that I can have a total column as well. A total. Okay. So that's what I have. After the variable costs, I'll go on to less my fixed costs. Fixed costs are also in shillings, millions. So what that means is I'll just come here. They have given me different percentages. We have 50, 30, 40, like such. So I'll just bring it here. These were my variable costs. Variable costs. Then I have my fixed costs. I have my fixed costs here. So this is just a moment. All right. So we are going to use these percentages. This is revenues here. Revenue. And then we have our so-called fixed cost percentage. This cost as a percentage. So we have that. We have that. We have that. We have that. So the fixed costs, we're just going to multiply this times this. We'll be able to get our different costs. So we have 148, 128, which we shall transfer and bring here. Okay, we get our total. So when we less fixed costs from our contribution, we shall get our operating profit. Operating profit, which will be this minus this. This gives us 24. Cascade down here. 24, 51.2, 70.4, 57, like that. That is basically what we have. And then once we have our profit, now one of the things that you need to realize, like I said, and I'll do this from the side here, return on investment, because they want us to use return on investment. Return on investment is given by the formula. It's given by the formula. Profit divided by profit being divided by, sorry, supposed to be this. So profit being divided by our capital employed. Profit being divided by capital employed. Now, in this question, they have given us, when you look at it, they have given us total current assets and total current, they have given us total assets and current liabilities. Now, if you know very well how to calculate capital employed. Now, capital employed, some people call it net assets. Some people call it net assets. Sometimes capital employed, from just the word capital employed, basically we are trying to look at the equity and the long-term liabilities the organization has invested, okay? The equity and the long-term liabilities that the organization is trying to deploy. Now, I believe that we know very well this so-called accounting formula, which says assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. Let's call it equity in this case. So what this means is, remember that these so-called assets is, this is total fixed assets, total fixed assets plus total current assets is equal to, now also break down the liabilities. I'll say total non-current liabilities total current liabilities plus total current liabilities, then plus the so-called equity. Plus the so-called equity. I want to show you something here. Now, I just want to get to capital employed. Now, this is regarded to be capital employed. This as part of this so-called formula. This one is regarded to be your capital employed. Total current liability, it's not total current liabilities. It's total, the non-current liabilities. Let me just try to do like this. And like this. Yes. So the total non-current liabilities plus equity is regarded as capital employed. Okay. It's regarded as capital employed. But this can also be given by, when you take this total current liabilities this side, you're going to basically have, okay, let's say capital employed is equal to capital employed is equal to that. So if I just replace here and where there is total non-current liabilities plus equity, I replace it and call it capital employed, I can find another formula for capital employed. So let's just see. So this is the same thing as plus capital employed. So it means that your capital employed can also be given by what? Capital employed can also be given by total assets minus total current liabilities. It can be given by total assets minus total current liabilities. And this is the same thing. Sometimes this is also called net assets. Okay. So from our question, we have determined the profit, but what we don't have is the capital employed. But then in the question, we are lucky that we have been given some information. Now, the information we have been given is this information, this one, of total assets and total current liabilities. And that is the information that they have provided us in this question here. Total assets and current liabilities. So what you are going to basically do, we are going to come to our question here and go on to calculate our capital employed. Okay. So I'm just going to transfer this information. So we have total assets. So total assets are also in millions. Okay. These are in shillings millions. And then we have the current liabilities. So from our question, current liabilities are these ones. They're also in shillings millions. So I'll just copy them as well. Like that. So that is what we have. So for us to determine the capital employed, we shall just come here and say capital employed. Okay, we are going to get the difference, which is this minus this. So then our return, remember this is what we want. We want a profit and also we want the capital employed. So we want to get our return on investment. So return on investment is going to be given by this divided by this, okay, times 100%. Which is that. And we are going to cascade it here to this, definitely this. So we have 24, 18, 17, 21. We can just try to leave it at maybe at a decimal place. Let's just try to increase the decimal place. Yeah, so we can work with 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places, but I think 1 is okay. So this is what we basically have with our return. on investment. Now, I want you to look critically on these values, and we see. So do you realize that the return on investment in Arua is higher than any other branch? And do we agree that that is the same thing that this so-called branch manager was saying? Because they are telling us that during top management review meeting for the ended 2020 at the headquarters in Kampala, the branch manager of Arua was reprimanded by the CEO for contributing the lowest profit for there. His defense was that his branch has the least capital employed and limited resources compared to the rest, which affected its turnover. He further indicated that sometimes business opportunities were given to fellow service providers due to lack of capacity. He said that, I bet Mr. CEO, if Arua was given more capital, its profits would triple immediately. The finance director supported the branch manager of Arua by informing the CEO that despite his branch contributing low profits, financial analysis indicated that Arua performed better than the rest using its capital employed. Hence, the director further revealed that the branch with the highest profit contribution did not qualify for bonus for the year. So they're telling us that the CEO instructed the finances to share the financial analysis to demonstrate how clearly Arua performed best, which we have seen with using our so-called return on investment. So they're asking us also to evaluate the assertion that the branch with the highest profit, which we are seeing here, this branch with the highest profit. Let's see, branch with the highest profit. Okay, from our analysis, let's just see the branch with the highest profit. The branch with the highest profit, operating profits, is ACCA. Yes, ACCA has the highest profit. So they're telling us that this one does not even qualify for. Do you even see that here? As it has highest profit, it has also the lowest return on investment. Okay, so this is giving us an insight that the reason why we have these different measurement tools is that we cannot base on profit or based on revenue to say that this branch performs better than the other. We have to go ahead to calculate some of these things, okay? So this was part A of the question. Missed you on how to get total assets and total liabilities. So the total assets and total liabilities were actually provided. They gave us the values here directly. They gave us, and what I just tried to demonstrate here was how capital employed comes in. So I said capital employed is more of the funds that have been input into the business. And this is mainly your total non-current liabilities plus the equity, basically the loans, the debt finance plus equity finance. So this capital employed, so is given by non-current liabilities plus equity. But I said from our accounting equation, this so-called capital employed can also be given by total assets minus total current liabilities. And I said capital employed can also be called net assets sometimes. Okay, so that is what I said. So we are going to look at part 2 of the question. This was part A. Let's look at part B. Now, part B, we are going to, because the company's policy, they told us about the policy. So they told us here that the bonus policy indicates that, okay, let's start from here. The branches operate as investment centers. Now, the word investment center is a profit center, is basically is a responsibility center, which means that the branch can make investment decisions. Okay. Now, part of this question had something to do with they were asking us 3 responsibility centers. Now, like I said, if an organization is an investment center, if the branch of an organization is an investment center, means it can make investment decisions. The other responsibility centers that you have are cost center. If let's say a branch is a cost center, means that it is only evaluated on how it spends. So its decisions are only onto how it spends. It's only accountable for the costs and their control. And that's where the evaluation is. That's a cost center. If it's a revenue center, that means here managers are evaluated on the revenue, only on the revenue, okay? And then if it's a profit center, here you're evaluated on the profit you make. So it means that you're evaluated on both the sales as well as the costs. Now, when it gets to investment centers are usually evaluated on profit and their ability to make investments. So that is just to highlight that. So in this case, when they tell us that these branches operate as investment centers, so it means they can make investment decisions. So they're telling us that they operate as investment centers, and HFS has a bonus plan for these branches based on residual income. So we have return on investment, and then we have residual income, which is the alternative basis for evaluating divisions. So they're telling us that the bonus policy indicates that half of the so-called return on residual income is offered as a bonus to the branch. HFS set the required rate of return at 15% in the year 2016, but this rate was increased by 4% effective 1st January 2020. And remember, we are looking at performance of the period ended 2020. So we shall basically adjust our return, rate of return, okay? Yep. So before we go so far, I just want to give you the formula for residual income so that it can guide our search for the answer on what we want to do, okay? Now, residual income is given by, if you are looking at the branch, we shall look at traceable profit, okay, minus imputed interest charge. Minus imputed interest charge. Now, one of the things that you need to realize is that residual income is an absolute amount. It's an amount. Return on investment was a percentage, okay? So residual income is an absolute amount. Now, when they say imputed interest charge, okay? This imputed interest charge is given by capital employed times interest rate times the interest rate. And this interest rate is usually the company's cost of capital. Is usually the company's cost of capital. So that is what we have for residual income. So let's now see from the information we have been given, if we can be able to determine our residual income. We have, we went ahead, I think we got profit. So what I'll just do is I'll just use this. So I'll just come here. I'll do that. Now, since I already have profit, I'll just start from here, profit. I'll bring profit here, sorry. I'll bring my profit here. Okay. Now, if I bring my profit here, remember I said we're doing profit minus imputed interest charge. So I need to get my so-called interest, the imputed interest charge. So I'm going to use the capital employed, like we have said. So I'll pick my capital employed right here. And then remember, they gave us a rate of interest to use. When you come back to your question, when you go back here, they told us that HFS set the required rate of return at 15%, but this was increased by 4%. So this is the cost of capital. The required rate of return is the same thing as the cost of capital. So they're telling us that it is now 19, 15 plus that. So I'll just come here and say, this is interest, which is IRR. Okay, required rate of return. So you can write it in full. Required rate of return, which we have as 19%. We have 19%. So let's try to calculate our so-called imputed interest charge. The imputed interest charge. This times our capital employed at hand. So we have 19.38. We have 53.2, 79.8, 60.9. This is what we basically do have. And then after this, we can determine our residual income. All right, so when you press your calculator, profit minus this should be able to give us our imputed. Let's get it down here. So do we see something here? The company that the branch that has the highest profit, which is Kasese, has a residual income of 9.40. Now, for us to determine on who gets the bonus, we look at the standard company residual income rate. When you come back here on the question, they are telling us that, let's see, the bonus policy indicates that half of RI is offered as bonus to the branch. So yours is ask yourself, if somebody gets a negative, would it have to be again offered to them? Already they are negatives. So their RI is already in negative. So they don't qualify for a bonus because their RI is a negative. The only people that qualify for bonus will be this one and this one. So we can see that even our ALUA would qualify for the bonus compared to what the CEO was trying to assert, that ALUA was not performing well. So this is how the residual income would actually be determined in this case. And from that, you can be able to conclude. Usually the conclusions you base on what they have asked you, because the first part of the question was asking us to evaluate the finance director's assumption that ALUA branch performed better than other branches. So you can be able to assert that and say the finance director's assertions is correct, that ALUA branch performed better than other branches because using return on investment, ALUA branch has a return on investment of 23.5%, which is way higher than any other branch. And therefore, given the fact that the required rate of return for HFS is 19%, then they would qualify for a bonus because they are performing way above the required rate of return. Now, I think that you have to understand that this is the return on investment for each of the branch. But as an organization, they have what they call the required rate of return. So any organization, any branch that is performing better or performing well should perform above the required rate of return. So if somebody is performing at 23.5, they are performing above the 19%, which is the required rate of return. So they should be able to take a bonus. 18.3%, these ones are below, this is below, this is just operating exactly. And then this one is operating above. So these ones are performing above the required rate of return. Then when it comes to here, again, we also base on the question, which asks us to assert, evaluate the finance director's assertion that the branch with the highest profit contribution is not eligible for the bonus for their ended 31st December 2020. So we'd also look at this and be able to make a conclusion. So based on the computations, the finance director's assertions that Kasese with the highest profit would not take a bonus is right, because its residual income is minus 9.4 million. Basically, it makes a loss. It's a residual deficit. As these ones have a residual incomes, this is more of a residual deficit. So it has a residual deficit of 9.4, which implies that does not qualify, because the current policy says a half of the residual income is given back to the branch. So in this case, these guys that made the loss would not qualify. However, Alua and Masaka would qualify because they were able to make 4.6 million and 6.51 million respectively as residual incomes, and therefore a half of this should be given to them in terms of bonus. So that is how you would basically handle this so-called scenario at hand. Okay. All right, so I hope you have gotten this that I wanted to share with you today. You can try to look at other questions that involve performance evaluation. There are several of them. Sometimes these are also set as question 1. So just try to explore them, as long as you understand how to calculate the performance using the different performance measurement tools. Then you can be able to make key decisions, especially on performance and bonus payment for the respective staff. Okay. Yeah. Justin, your microphone is on. You wanted to ask a question, or it's okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Samuel.
Yes, McLean.
On the profit statement, what if I since I'm looking for the profit, what if I forget to look for the contribution, and for my get sales less the cost, the variable and the fixed costs, will I miss some mark on getting the contribution, or?
Ideally, you would still come to the same answer. You still come to the same answer, though of course when you're looking at performance, when we are looking at performance evaluation, the reason why we look at contribution also is that there are situations where a company is has a negative, maybe a loss, but when they have a positive contribution. So look, contribution just gives us a picture of pre-fixed costs. Before we subtract the fixed cost, how is the performance of this so-called organization? But you'd still come to the same, and I know that you'll not forget anyway. So that's why we bring in contribution here. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, fine. All right, I'll share the recording. Let me even share it immediately. Someone requested for recording of last week, so I'm going to share it accordingly. Okay. Yeah.
Another question.
Please.
Okay, it's not a question, but I wanted to find out what should we, which video should we go through for the next class?
Okay. Last time I asked you to go through the video of just a moment. Just try to confirm something here. performance measurement, and what other topic? There were two topics that I talked about.
Linear programming.
Yes, linear programming. That is what I had asked you to basically go through. So during this week, I request that you go through cost estimation and behavior, and then decision control and the risk and uncertainty. Unfortunately, most of you didn't go through the other recordings that I shared with you. Find time to see how you can catch up. Yeah, I just have nothing to do, but you have to find time to just catch up. So those two topics, they're basically 2 hours. So create time and say maybe every day I'm going through a topic, but at least take your time to go through those recordings. Yeah. So somebody says in the conclusion part, what non-financial parameters can one write as advice to besides the computation? The non-finance factors, if at all they were given. Now for this question, we didn't have any other factors that were non-financial, but like I said, other finance factors, non-finance factors, in case they were given, things like maybe customer care, maybe process time taken to serve, let's say customer staff turnover, maybe number of customers, maybe customer complaints, and so on. So those could be one of the things that could be looked at. So just in case you want to maybe add that on your text, yeah, you can say, just in case we had maybe another information, but for this specifically, we are just given the financials. So we needed not to have to look at the non-financial, but just in case they are given in the SC, because sometimes they are given in the SC, you can be able to bring in exactly what is given in the SC, what you think from what you've seen in the SC might affect how management may allocate their bonuses. Okay. Yeah. All right. Please share the previous record request for set out with help prepare so we can. Please share the previous request for a set out test as well as prepare to help so far what we've concluded. I believe, Edith, do you mean a test? Like a test to test you? Okay, she concludes the test. I'm going to give you a date for the test. I'll share that with you. By the next class, you'll be able to know it. Okay, and I'll give you these tests. All right, so thanks, and have the best in the rest of the day.